Hello everyone, this is my 7-round NFL mock draft for the Cleveland Browns using PFF's mock draft simulator. Now a few notes before we begin. First of all, this is a GM mock draft, so this is not what I think's going to happen. This is more so, or completely I mean, what I would do if I were the GM of the Cleveland Browns, if I had Andrew Berry's job. These are the players and the positions that I would target. Second thing is, I'm a big fan of PFF, Pro Football Focus. I agree with about 80% of the analysts, their opinions and their takes. So if you're not a big fan of them, if you think they're trash, then maybe there's a pretty good chance you're not going to like this video or this mock draft. And thirdly, finally, you might see a player here that you're like, oh my God, that's way too high for them. Or you're like a player that actually goes much later and you're like, haha, that was so dumb. Well, let me inform you of something. Every single year in the NFL draft, there's a player that slides. There's a player that gets taken out of nowhere. And there's also players that get drafted really late that are, what I mean by really late is like in the 70s, 80s, 100s, that make the Pro Bowl, that are good players, that are solid players, okay? So what I mean to say is that what actually happens, it's a crapshoot and we really don't know. And the second thing is that evaluation is like throwing darts at the dartboard blind or something like that. Tom Brady made it to the 199th pick in the 2000 draft. Aaron Rodgers slipped to the 24th pick in the 2005 draft. Aaron Donald, defensive tackle Pittsburgh, lasted until the 13th pick of the 2014 draft. Okay? These evaluators get this stuff wrong all the time. Me, I'm going to get it wrong too. I just think I get it wrong at less of a rate than they do. But anyway, okay, that's a bit of a rant. Moving on. At number 10, I selected Christian Fulton, cornerback, Louisiana State University, otherwise known as LSU. What I like about him are a lot of things. Played in the SEC, went against great competition, and still played really, really well. Last year's tape is better than this year's. That's because of a scheme difference. Last year he played off zone. This year he played more man-to-man. But both years, really good grading. Second thing about him, he's got solid size. His speed isn't really amazing or anything, so that's why some teams and some analysts are less on him than other players maybe. But overall, I think he's a complete package. He's just really sound. He graded exceptionally well in the SEC, and there's no real extreme glaring weakness to his game. Really like him. Cleveland Browns, do they really need a cornerback super badly? No, not really. But all the good tackles that I really wanted besides Josh Jones were gone. So, and I didn't really want to take Josh Jones this high, and I felt like cornerback was maybe more of a need than a wide receiver. Maybe I should have went with someone like CeeDee Lamb, who I think was available. Maybe I should have went with him instead of Fulton, but I don't think you can go wrong with him. I like Fulton in orange, in the Cleveland Brown colors. At 43, I selected Jordan Elliott, defensive tackle out of University of Missouri. He's another guy that PFF really likes and another guy that I really like as well. What can I say about him? He's not super explosive, but he basically has what I like to call stylistically a delayed swim. He pops up, kind of like fights with the offensive lineman a bit at the line, and then all of a sudden, poof, pop, he's through. It's kind of like, what did that happen? It's kind of like like a delayed shot or something like that. I don't know another great way of describing that. He has really great hands, good technique, and that's an underrated or an important aspect of playing defensive tackle. So I really like him here. I think he's a top 50 player. Moving on, pick 74, I selected Ben Bartch, offensive tackle, St. John's University, Division III. What I like about him is he has really good grading, and at the Senior Bowl, he showed that he can hold his own against NFL caliber Division I talent. That's what I really like about him. The risk here is that obviously he's Division III, and you have no idea what's going to happen with him. I think he could play on the left or right side, maybe even kick in the guard if you really need it. So it's not the best situation for Cleveland getting this guy this late, but I think maybe before the draft, Trent Williams gets traded there to Cleveland. So they might not need a left tackle as badly as they do at this moment right now. So anyway, I guess that's another thing. But Bartch is, honestly, I think he might go before 74. He might not even be available. Okay, let's move on. Pick 104, I selected Matt Hennessy, guard / center, Temple University. Honestly, I haven't seen any tape of his. He's just a fairly well-regarded prospect by a lot of different draft boards and analysts. And at this selection right here, I thought he was good value at the 104th selection. I wanted to take him because I didn't see any other prospect that I really, really like all that much. So I was kind of grasping at straws a bit. I'm like, I guess I'll take this guy. He's certainly not bad, but there just wasn't really a wide receiver or a safety or I guess there was Geno Stone still available, and I really like him. But there wasn't another position that, there wasn't a really great linebacker there. So I selected him. So, because I feel good about him being at least depth or like replacement average starter. 115, I took Geno Stone. Love this guy. I've talked a lot about him in other mocks, but just to keep this short, essentially, he's a very instinctual player. Iowa safety, and Iowa's been known in recent years to produce really good safeties / slot cornerbacks, and that's the good upside for him. The positives, the downside or negatives is that he's undersized and that he's maybe isn't the super fastest guy in the world, but he's not slow by any means. He's just not, like a 4.4 guy. He's more like, I think, like tested out at 4.6 or somewhere around there. So, okay. Let's go to 163, McTelvin Agam, defensive tackle, Arkansas. Yeah, it's another defensive tackle. I didn't mention it before, but interior defensive line is not a super major need, but for a pass rushing guy, I do think Cleveland could stand upgrade there because Ogajuni I'm really shitty with names, sorry. Larry O and Sheldon Richardson are decent, but Richardson, his contract's coming up soon, and Larry, he's solid, but I still think there's depth there, depth that they need, and these guys are solid, both of them, especially Elliott, but also Agam. I think he can rush the passer a bit, and that would help out. Moving on, 187, I took James Morgan, quarterback, FIU, I believe, Florida International University. This guy's got pretty good tape for a later round prospect, QB prospect. There's a couple of guys that I really like, and he's one of them. Baker Mayfield, I love him a lot too. I think he's going to straighten out some of the deficiencies, or not deficiencies, but correct some of the issues that he had last year. And he's going to go on to have a really, really good career. I just, once again, there wasn't anyone that popped off that I'm like, oh man, I got to take this guy. So I'm like, there's too much value here in taking a quarterback, and especially this guy. And so I think he can be developed. He can become a quality backup or maybe even a starter. And if he shows well in the preseason, you can maybe flip him for some picks that are much higher than the 187th. So it's a long-term option there. Moving on, at 199, I selected Darnell Mooney, wide receiver, Tulane University. I'm going to sound like a broken record here. Again, wasn't really super thrilled with the options available. That's going to happen. It's like almost the 200th pick. These guys are equivalent to UDFAs. They're really tier-wise same level of prospect. He's a guy with a lot of speed, but I think he has issues with either route running or drops, which are two pretty bad death knells for the wide receiver position. But overall, he compared to the other people that you could get there, I feel a little bit better with him than the other players. And certainly wide receiver, teams can always get better with that, almost. Finally, at pick 244, I selected Charlie Heck, offensive tackle, University of North Carolina. He's got some decent bloodlines. His dad was a offensive lineman for the Chicago Bears in, I believe, the 80s. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that. So he's got some bloodline there a little bit, being that his dad played in the NFL. You look at his tape and basically he doesn't suck. He does okay. I don't know exactly how he graded with PFF, if he gave up a lot of pressures or not. I just looked at maybe 1, 2, or 3 of his games just to get a feel for him. And guys in this range, in the 200s, from basically like 150 on, if I watch tape and I go, doesn't suck, then I feel decent about him. So it's just guys that I look and I'm like, I don't see that person ever even making a roster. I think this guy has, 5%, 10% chance of making the roster. That's much better than the typical going rate. Literally, after about the 120th pick, there's something about a 2% chance that a player's going to become above average. So it's really super low. So if you can get any guy that's just like makes the roster, well, that's a different percentage. But anyway, I liked him for the 244th selection, Charlie Heck. And finally, we're going to finish up with the couple of trades that I made. The first one is moved back 2 spots and picked up, I traded away the 41st pick and I got the 43rd and 163rd. I think that's kind of realistic. Sometimes teams move up a couple of spots and they give up a late round pick. So at the 41st pick, I think the issue was that I didn't love any of the players. Obviously, Elliott, I liked a lot. I took him 43rd, but there was probably more than one guy there that I liked, and picking up an extra pick is, I think, always a smart move, especially when you're only trading down like a couple of spots. It's always good to do that. And then, the reason why I didn't ask for more is because I think it's super unrealistic in the actual draft that you'd get any more than what is shown there. So I want to try and make these pretty accurate, at least, or I want to say, what I mean to say is I'm trying to make these more realistic with the trades. And then also the second trade at I traded away the 97th pick for for the 104th and 199th. So I moved down about, what, seven positions there, pick up 200th pick, you know. It's, I think that's kind of realistic. You got teams trading all along or all throughout the draft, up and down a bit. So I think that's fairly realistic because the compensation you're getting is just like a late 7th round, I think, or late 6th round selection, whatever that is exactly. Overall, I know the PFF grade is just a 77.1, which is actually fairly decent, I would guess. But I think I would have liked to address tackle and wide receiver better than what this shows, but they didn't really fall or drop in that way, so I took the best of what I felt comfortable with and the players that I like. Okay, so I'm confident that these players in these positions would really help the Cleveland Browns and help propel them into the playoffs if the actual draft goes anywhere near or kind of similar to this. So thank you very much if you've lasted this long. I really appreciate you listening and viewing. It's a new channel and I have like 0 views on all my videos. So if you make it all the way through one of my videos, I'm going to go up and give you a handshake, sir or lady. Thank you very much. Okay, well, I hope you have a great day and bye-bye.